Chronicle banners, a banner that comes by once in the blue moon, but even though blue moons are usually special and people love it, Chronicle banners on the other hand has been having quite a lot of hate from everyone. Now for me personally, I actually don't hate the Chronicle banners that much, maybe because it's only the second time we actually had the banner lineup. Now obviously when you look at the first Chronicle banner, it didn't seem to be that great because obviously, you know, the lineups are some of the worst characters in Genshin Impact, and you know, we usually don't use them. This time around, I think it's slightly better overall. So obviously the whole point of today's video is me going to look into the Chronicle banner itself this time around and basically going through how I will personally choose the character myself if I were to be deciding which character would be very much beneficial for my account to make the pooling decision. Natlan is finally here, and of course that comes with many new characters that you would want to pull, and I can guarantee you that Mavuika is going to be on the list. Now if you're planning to swipe for pooling, then don't forget to check out Loot Bar. If you know me, I've been recommending you guys Loot Bar before, since you can always save almost a 20% on all of your top-ups. With over 100,000 orders and so many good reviews at this point, you can be sure that Loot Bar is trustworthy. To demonstrate it to you, I've been topping up my Genshin account through Loot Bar, buying the highest Genshin package. The only information you would need to fill out is going to be your UID and server region. Then go through the checkout process. After completing, the top-ups will come to your account within 5 minutes. Usually it just comes instantly for me. Here you can see my order receipt of all of my top-ups that I have done. So guys, be sure to check out Loot Bar through the link in my description, as it can be a great way for you to save your money, especially if you are topping up a large amount. Now, surprising or not, I think the best character overall here is going to be Baizhu. I don't remember when Baizhu had his rerun. I think it's only a couple of patches ago, but it's kind of nice to have him here because specifically on my account itself, I don't have a Baizhu. It's interesting how he already had his rerun a couple of times and I still haven't pulled for Baizhu. It's most likely because, you know, the character that runs alongside Baizhu is actually good, so I didn't have a chance to pull him. But this time, if I do, I'll probably try to get him because overall, whole team healing in Genshin Impact is still pretty nice, especially if you're running alongside Farina, for example, who sap out your whole team HP. So Baizhu is still pretty nice in that regard, but moreover, he's specifically a Dendro healer that also has the ability to provide a bit of shielding for knockback resistance. So in terms of Dendro team specifically, you would still find yourself potentially asking for a slot for Baizhu many of the time. Now obviously, I don't think we have to discuss much about constellations because most of us aren't going to be touching on this. So overall, he's a pretty simple character for you guys to pull. He has a little bit of buffing here and there, obviously not too great of a buff, but overall it's nonetheless on any kind of supportive healing character on your account. But honestly, overall within the Chronicle banner right now, I feel that he has the best values in terms of overall everything. Other than that, there's Child. Now Child is slightly more of a niche character in these days and times. I think that if you already like Child, you see his potential all the way, you know, within the meta, because he still has one of the better team out there in the meta, of course, then I'm pretty sure you should already have Child at this point in time. The more important question many probably be asking is whether or not you should pull for his constellation if you really like Child. I mean, obviously overall we have many Hydro character at this point in time, right? Especially Neuvillette, it's like right there. You know, sometimes there can be a funny team where you have both Neuvillette and Child being on the same team, because obviously Child has an interesting passive that actually increases your normal attack palette level by 1, and that actually helps Neuvillette as well. I don't think many of the time we're going to have Child just because of a Neuvillette team, right? So that's a competitiveness of its own. Now, even though I know Child is a good character, but many of the time his playstyle actually holds him back for me to actually use a lot, because his rotation can get very specific if you want to be able to actually use him very effectively. Otherwise, you're stuck waiting for his cooldown many of the time. So yeah, he's a character that requires practice a little bit, but overall I feel at this point in time he's more or less a preference character, because I feel that Child is more kind of like an old school kind of team at this point, because believe it or not, he was a character that released all the way back in 1.1, which is very long ago. His constellation overall I don't think it's that good specifically. Alright, if you really want to have an easier time, maybe a C1 is kind of fine. Other than that, honestly speaking, speaking, it's not really that much of a needed, rather that you save your Primogems pool for other characters. Now, more importantly, I want to touch on the star of the show on Chronicle banner this time around, as none other than our lovely Shanha. Yeah, it's been a very long time since she's been back. Really glad that she's here. Now, unfortunately, Cryo is still nowhere to be seen in terms of getting buff. However, I don't think that is going to be the case for too much of a long time at this point. Though you still will have to wait, because technically speaking, Cryo will definitely has to be buffed once we get into Snezhnaya, because it is the Cryo region. If Cryo's not buffed, then you know the Tsaritsa will have a pretty big problem, unless once again Hoyoverse wants to create a whole separate character that has nothing to do with Cryo whatsoever, just like Silali, where she buffed Hydro and Pyro, which is kind of sucks for Cryo overall, I would say. So please, Hoyoverse, honestly speaking, don't do that for the Cryo element any further, because I myself really love Cryo. It's been a long time since we've seen any good Cryo performance, because obviously, you know, most of the newer characters nowadays are just very powerful in their respective element. So honestly speaking, invest into Cryo this specific time is not going to be a good idea. However, I know Shanha herself, I still believe that she will have her own benefit whenever, you know, Cryo get buffed again, because she's a specific character that buff Cryo really well. And, you know, I myself has invested into a C3 Shanha for a very long time now. I think all the way back in, I think 2.5 or something when she was released. I don't remember when she was released, but it's a very long time ago. I invested into her all the way back then. Back then, Cryo is still doing pretty well, but now I haven't been using her a lot because, you know, Cryo has been falling behind. But it's still my belief that someday and sometime there will be something that brings Cryo DPS character back and they become very good, which is where Shanha will shine once again. So if you want to decide to invest into Shanha right now, it's not the best for the meta, but if you like her and like Cryo characters, then yeah, it's probably a better time for you to do so, because who knows when she's going to be back. She's not even on any of the official banners rerun, but she's on a Chronicle banners, for God's sake. Oh my god. So yeah, if you're investing into Shanha, you probably want to look into, you know, Ganyu as well, right? Unless you're a new player coming into Genshin Impact, I'm pretty sure most of us already have Ganyu if you like Ganyu. Ganyu is a pretty lovely character, guys. Obviously, she can't hold up to some of the newer DPS nowadays, but if you really want to use Ganyu, she will still be able to dish out damage for you, because specifically her melt and her burn melt teams are still pretty good. Technically speaking, you can still use her on the Shilonen team, which is kind of like a newer team for Ganyu at this point in time after Shilonen has been released, interestingly. But once again, not the best time for us to be investing into Cryo, so if you're pooling, definitely going to be your preference. Other than that, right, here's Xiao. Now, I value Xiao a lot as well. He is still a pretty decent character if you have his specific teams, because technically speaking, you only need to invest into a either a C0 or a C1 Xiao along with his Jade Spear, and that's more than enough, because Xiao has one of the worst constellation in the whole entire game. But his best team comp is what makes Xiao into an insanely good character, because alongside with specifically a Furina, a Faruzan, and a Xian Yun, that's literally a specific team that is made for Xiao. Like if you have a C6 Faruzan, that's insanely good for him. If you have a better constellation Furina, that also helps Xiao, and especially if you have a C2 Xian Yun and above, yeah, that's an insanely good Xiao team that any of the constellation possibly that you can give towards Xiao. So since my teams are very invested towards Xiao supporting characters, specifically I have a C3 Furina, I have, you know, a C1 Xian Yun. I probably try to get a C2 Xian Yun whenever she comes back. And obviously I have a C6 Faruzan. Then currently Xiao team is still one of the best teams specifically for my account. So yeah, if you're investing into Xiao, you really have to consider that, because otherwise it's not going to be really good for him. And then yeah, there's obviously you know, Kuqing and then Qiqi. I don't know why you probably want to use Qiqi, but yeah, that's going to be your choice. And Kuqing is definitely going to be a preference-wise character. Kuqing is my main character. Obviously I try to invest a lot into her, and I I love Kuching. I still use her every single day up until this point in terms of playing Genshin Impact. So while for me, I don't have to discuss a lot about her. Other than that, it's just going to be pretty much preference. If you have a C6 Kuching, yeah, she's a pretty good DPS character that can help you to do decently in the Abyss, specifically if you're looking into it. But other than that, I can't say more than she being a preference character wise. Now in terms of the weapons in the Chronicle banner itself, you know, some good weapons are going to be the Jade Cutter, the Jade Spear, right? Those two are still some of the better weapons that we have in the game, but obviously, you know, trying to actively pull for the weapon itself, I think it's a waste of your Primogems unless you really like it. You know, for example, you really like the Jade Cutter, because honestly, I haven't seen the Jade Cutter being available on any of the banner apart from some very specific banner and the Chronicle banner itself. So it might be hard for you to come across it. I honestly don't remember when I actually got a 4 Jade Cutter here. It is pretty good looking design, so if you really want to specifically pull for it, I think it's fine, but it will actually waste a lot of your Primogems to just pull for the weapons. Other than that, you know, the Summit Shaper, not really that good. We have specifically the Unforged that's going to be available as well. Now, unless you have this available on your account already, again, it's not really good for you to actively pull for it. Interestingly, this potentially can be good for Mavuika, but yeah, again, you still have to actively pull for it. So if it's for Mavuika, mostly it's just going to give her a Serpent Spine, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be more than good enough for you. Calamity Queller is pretty much for Shenhe, so if you're investing into Shenhe, you technically should pull for this weapon. Obviously, she has a lot of other options, but Calamity Queller is just too good for her. So if you're already investing into Shenhe, pulling for her, I just recommend you to try and get this weapon. Other than that, you should never get this weapon on mostly other characters anyway. Now, Amos mode nowadays isn't really good. You just, you know, either you wish for a lucky pull on the standard banner itself, or just give Ganyu other weapon that you have access to. Polar Star is a decent weapon as well. Actively pulling for Polar Star is obviously not needed, but if you do have this weapon, it is more of a universal weapon that you can use across a couple of the bow DPS character on your account, so it's kind of nice if you do have it, but again, it's not really that much of a must-have. Catalyst wise, the Jade 4 Splendor, yeah, again, not must-have. Don't try to pull for it actively, but if you have it, it's kind of nice, not too bad anyway. I've never actually used this weapon in my whole life. It's just an unlucky pull for me that I actually got 2 of this, but I've never used it before, so yeah, don't ever actually pull for this weapon. So overall, guys, those are going to be the Chronicle banner itself. Honestly speaking, guys, the value of the Chronicle banner is not something that you guys should be focusing in, especially Mavuka and Citlali is technically right there, but it's more of the banner for those of the player who have been trying to get these characters for a long time and they haven't got the ability to do so. So hopefully what I've discussed here on this video have been able to help you guys out. If you have any questions, guys, don't forget to leave it down in the comment section, and I or some other lovely Genshin player will get to you there. Again, if you're trying to pull for the characters, you're lacking in Primogems, and you want to get good values whenever you top up, don't forget to check out Loot Bar, as I'm sure it will be very helpful to you. I really appreciate you guys staying with me to this part of the video, guys, and with that, I wish you a super day, and I will catch you on my next video.